involved in ASF since we got that diagnosis and we plugged in. So we have learned so much from the adult community so far, and I'm very thankful for you all. So I will hand it over to Robin, who is going to lead us to tonight. So we do want to say that at any point, I'm trying to continue to throw stuff into the chat box or the question and answer box. Robin will talk more about our meeting tonight, and as we can, and if we can, we will make sure to answer any questions going forward. So I'm still trying to make sure that everyone is promoted and I can allow them to talk. So maybe I'm working on it. Okay, so we will do that. But with that, Robin, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. We're so happy to see everybody. I want to start out with just a little bit of history on how we got here. So this Angel Guardians meeting is really the brainchild of our Angelman Syndrome Foundation Adult Services Task Force. We've been meeting for over a year now, trying to come up with resources and support for individuals who care for adults with Angelman syndrome. So I wanted to start with that and just briefly tell you who's on the task force, because this is a great group of folks, and I'm telling you, they're just wonderful. And Amanda talked about that, of how we're kind of a little support group of our own as well. And so I want to tell you who's on it right now, and invite anyone who wants to join our task force there's a link on the Angelman site, or you can send me an email saying you want to be a part of this group. But who's a part of it right now? And the majority of these people have been on this task force since day one. And we meet monthly, developing and working on resources. So the current members of the group include, and y'all can wave if you're on video here, Cindy Snyder, she'll wave at us, Dawn Bly. I don't see Sherry on it. She may be, but Sherry Caspert is on it and is an active member as well. Ann Masak is a new member on our group, as is Deb Chapman and Donna Manhart. Both of them are newer members. And then we're really fortunate to have 3 really active adult sibling members of our task force. And those are Leslie Mcallister, who is my co-chair on the Adult Services Task Force. And Leslie's here. Her picture's not up, but I see her here. Amber Rippey is also a very active, Amber's waving, member, and is Elizabeth McKnight. So I know Elizabeth's on here. There we go. So we really
Robin, sorry, I want to say that Michelle Bowen is joining us, and she is going to be a brand new member of the Siblings Task Force as well. So we're excited I saw your name up there and just wanted to throw that out there too.
Great, and thank you, Michelle. Michelle, you're a sibling as well?
Yeah, my brother's right here.
That's what I thought. I thought you were on the
distance stuff. He's not always able to go because we live in California. But I just wanted to show him he exists. He's real. This is my sibling. But I'm super excited to join the task force.
Thank you. And we're looking forward to having you on the task force. So really the purpose of the task force, as I said, is to develop resources for for caregivers of adults with Angelman syndrome. And we really have 2 arms to the committee, and we've really made a purposeful choice of keeping the parent / caregiver / siblings all on the same group. That's the discussion we had. And since really the adult siblings are either caregivers or potential caregivers as well, they belong obviously in the Adult Services Task Force. So it's a great group of folks, like I said, and been very active and involved, and I think doing a really good job. So this Angel Guardians group that we're going to have every other month, as well as the adult sibling meeting that is meeting the month we're not meeting. So every month we'll have either an adult sibling meeting that's led by the siblings on our task force, or we will have this meeting every month. So the purpose of this meeting is really twofold, and is to provide caregivers of adults with Angelman syndrome with both resources that we want to talk about every other month, and as Amanda alluded to, a way to network with other caregivers. So we've had this discussion on who's invited. That's been a little confusing. And so the ASF's done a really good job, I think, of getting more and more clarity on who we mean to be the audience and the participants in this group. And so really it's any and all caregivers or potential caregivers of adults with Angelman syndrome in all living situations. So it's any and all caregivers or potential caregivers of adults. So that's the purpose of this. And we're gonna get direction from all of y'all on where we need to head with this. We have some ideas that we will be sharing in a moment of some ways we think this group could maybe be helpful to all of us. So before I get started on it, I do want to say, Catherine reminded me to say, and this is really helpful, that if you feel the need to take notes, you can if you want to, but you don't have to, because Catherine is going to be really good to all of us and send out a recap of this meeting. So we'll all have an attachment with all the information on it, so we don't have to, we can relax, which we all don't get to do very often. And Catherine will send out the recap for us. So the first thing, we have a little agenda here to start with, so I'm just going to go through it. And any of y'all jump in. As you know, she's made everybody a panelist. So if you want to jump, you can either put a question in the Q&A box or in the chat box, and Catherine is monitoring those as we speak. Or you can unmute your mic and jump in if you have something that you want to ask or contribute, or whatever reason you want to jump in. So the first few things we want to do, and Catherine's going to help us with this, is we want to make sure that everyone is signed up for the ASF registry. And if you're signed up for that registry, you get access to all the communication from the ASF. They send out routine emails from the ASF updating us all on information and what's available. So we want to make sure everybody's on that registry. So Catherine, I don't know, I know you're going to put the link. Do you want to share that and show it, or do you just want to put the link in?
So I'll go ahead. I'm sure everyone on here has it, but a good thing just so you know where it is, and you can share it with your other children if you have any, or siblings, if there's any aunts or uncles, cousins, anyone that is involved. We definitely want them to know how they can get information from us. Not everyone is on social media, and that's how we share a lot of our information, but we also do a email, and that comes out pretty regularly. So hang on, let me see. So I'm gonna try and, not on the right thing. Hang on one second. All right. So you guys know exactly where to go. It's very easy. Once you can all see it, you just hit contact registry right here, and then fill out the information. But like we said, we really encourage anyone who has any involvement with an individual with AS to go ahead and sign up on this. And then also make sure that our emails don't go to your spam folder. So sometimes they get stuck in junk or whatever. So just FYI on that. Okay.
Okay, so then leading right into that, and Catherine's going to share her screen again, we wanted to show everyone how to access the adult resources. Sometimes it gets a little confusing because we actually have adult resources both on the adult resources page and on the sibling page, because of the need for the adult siblings to have access to the same things. So I wanted Catherine to share how you actually get to the adult resources on the ASF site. And
So
she can, if you'll walk them through that, Catherine.
Yep.
Please.
So you just go to angelman.org, and our website is a wealth of information, and there's a lot of stuff on here, a lot of really great stuff, but we also understand that at times it might seem overwhelming. So there's two things that we really recommend you do. One, we have the search bar up here, which anything you plug into there, like let's say I go to resource team, you can all see what I do. I've used it as often as well. And then it pops up here. So the search option is just a really great thing. It can take you right to where you need to go. But from the home page, just again, angelman.org, you go straight to resources, drop down to adult resources. I'm assuming this is where you want me to go, right?
Right, that's right, Catherine.
And then again, just keep scrolling because there is such a great amount of information that the adult task force has put together. Do you want me to go ahead and open up any of these? Do you want to wait?
Well, if you just skim, show them down and then we can hit on them individually right quick.
Yeah. So you just keep on going. The adult family champions, we'll hit on all of this. Any past, so like this will be up here, past recordings, webinars and meetings, all are up here. So again, a great, here we are, Angel Guardians. And then also make sure that your children, siblings, like I said, anyone, kind of check out the sibling resources. It'll link you over to that. And then here are a bunch of webinars that we have felt are all great resources.
So we're continuing, I'm gonna get, Catherine, you can just leave that up a second. We're continuing to work on documents, as I said, and we really want everybody's input and participation if you want to participate in developing these resources. So we want to show you what the task force, the Adult Services Task Force has done, a few things we've done so far. So if you scroll down on this adult resources page, Catherine, please, the first two documents we did, actually the very first document the group did based on input from the not this one, but the previous Angelman Syndrome conference from 19 was this facility tour checklist. And the purpose of that, if Catherine, if you'll click on it, on the facility tour checklist, or you can go ahead and whichever one you want to pull up. So this was the second document we did, which is transitioning to an adulthood checklist. It's a pretty extensive checklist on what you need to do starting at age 14. We're always looking for suggestions for this document. The document has actually now been used by several rare disease organizations as their model. But you can see we actually have what you need to be doing prior to 12 years of age. Now, if you go on another resource page, the ASF actually has starting at birth, going up to 12, and this is from 12 and up. But if anybody has any additions that they think we need to add to this or make it even better, we'd love to have your input on it. But from our perspective, at least right now, it's a pretty extensive checklist on what we all need to be doing and when.
And
so
one thing to add real quick, Robin, is we tried to stress at the siblings meeting as well, even though it says prior to 12 years, this is a great place for someone who might be taking over guardianship or conservatorship just to look. And even though it says prior to 12 years of age, it's a great place to begin to get and understand what some of this information is, like special needs trust and whatnot. So even though it says prior to 12 years, if you have someone that you know might be taking over guardianship or conservatorship, this is a good document for them to go ahead and get familiar with as well.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. If you can just pull up right quick that other document on facility checklist, just so we could show them that on your screen. This really came out of, as I said, the meeting that people who were looking at possibly placing their children or their adult children in a some living situation outside of their home, what kind of questions would need to be asked. So that's where the facility tour checklist arose from. And again, anyone who reads this and thinks things are left out, please give us input. The more eyes on these and the more input, the better they become. But you can see it's things, the questions you need to ask if you're looking at supervised living home or resident, any kind of placement outside the home. So those were the first two things that we worked on. Really the next thing we worked on was we developed an adult family champion program. As y'all are probably all aware, we've had a family champion program with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation for many, many, many years. And so we now have an adult family champion. So if you're willing to volunteer to be on that group, please let us know. But that's who we use if somebody calls in or emails with a question related to adults who have Angelman syndrome. Then we have a group of people that either they can contact or the ASF can refer them to help. There also will be a sibling champion program that's being developed as well. So that's another thing we did. Now, a few things we're besides the Angel Guardian meeting that we're now working on that we're really excited about. One is a FAQ document related to adults with Angelman Syndrome Foundation. And Catherine, I don't know if you wanted to share that. This is almost ready to put on the website. We have to brand it, but the purpose of this FAQ document is actually to have referenced sources for questions that we all have. So this document only will have question FAQs related to things that we actually have a hard reference on. So as you can see, we've got applying for Social Security, and we've got the Social Security sites. We have IRS sites. We have ABLE sites. So age-appropriate gifts, we have a site for that. You see the financial planning site about ABLE accounts.
Also stress that a lot of this information is going to vary state by state. So this is stuff that we have put together and found, and then from there, there are very specific, especially like when it comes to guardian and conservatorship and ABLE accounts and whatnot. So just know that a lot of this is very dependent on where you live. But this is what it will look like. We're adding some things to it. And then also, yeah, it's going to be branded and be available hopefully within the week for y'all to access, but it's in the works.
Right. So we tried to be really sensitive to the fact that we don't want to put anything out there that's opinion-based. We're trying to put references on there, and as Catherine said, Social Security is a federal program. There's very little, if any, variation between states, but we all know that Medicaid and ABLE programs and things like that are very state specific. So anyway, that's one thing we're getting ready to put on that we hope is going to be really helpful, because I know any of you who are on social media see the same questions come up over and over and over again related to ABLE accounts and Social Security and special needs trusts, things like that. So anything we can help that we don't have to keep reinventing, we thought would be helpful. Now, several other documents we're working on that are going to be ready really soon that we're really excited about. One of them is an All About Me document or form or whatever you want to say that's going to be individualizable, so that you will have, my daughter's name is Paige, so it'll be all about Paige, and it actually gives me direction to go in and individualize it, so I don't have to reinvent something that I might give to a short-term caregiver or a long-term caregiver or camp or whomever. So we're going to make that completely individualizable with suggestions so that we don't have to rethink everything, but it'll give us a way to have some structure there. And then another really interesting thing that we're working on, this actually came from a request to the ASF, and our group thought, well, this is a great idea for us to put on a website for adult resources. And it's actually, right now, the name of it kind of is a symptom document. But what happened was one of the adults was actually going to a supervised living home, and the actual home said, well, how would we know if something is not right with the adult with Angelman syndrome? So the ASF started by creating this document that has all these lists. So how would I know Paige doesn't feel well? She's going to point to her head, even though it may not be her head, but that's her thing. So everybody, we all know all of our children and siblings and people we care for are all as different as all of us. And so everybody doesn't have the same exact symptoms. So we actually are working on a document that is also will be individualizable, where we have lists there that everybody has suggested, and then you can add and take away and individualize it for your adult. With Angelman syndrome, it'll be available on the website. And then if you have any need to share with a school or a respite worker or a day services or a supervised living home, then you will have something you can go in and individualize for your adult with Angelman syndrome. So we're real excited about that. The next thing we're working on is an information binder, and I think I'll talk about that again in just a second on the information binder, because that's something we really wanted to cover. And then the last thing we're working on right this minute, we have a list of about 10 things that we carry that we're working on as we get to them. We prioritize them and work on them as we get to them. So on that list is, I said that we were going to have that FAQ document that's going to be referenced. But we're also working on a best practices tips and tricks document that's going to be a list of things that have worked, because we've had questions like personal hygiene. What's the best way to take care of personal hygiene for our men or women with Angelman syndrome? So that's not something we can really reference, but we can say, here are standards of care, here's good tips for how to do this. So we're working on one of those documents as well. So that's really going to be best practices and tips, not something we can say, this is the definitive answer to this, like we can say with IRS, right? That's pretty standardized, and we can't have opinions on that. So we're going to talk about what's worked and what hasn't worked. Okay, let's see what else is on. You can see I've got a whole list of things I'm trying to work on here. Now, Catherine, is there anything you want to add about any of those that the task force is working on?
Outside of, you're going to go back to the binder information, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm getting ready to go back to the binder.
No, we will ask for, we'll put everything out and we will ask for your input, especially this. Do you want me to share the best practices that we have so far? I'll just do it. So you guys can see some of the stuff that we're thinking about, like what the idea is. Here we go. So this is where we have started. And these are just things that we want to be able to give a resource to, that again, you can give to a caregiver, someone who's going to be staying with your individual and loved one with AS for a weekend, for a day, or just to help you. And so I know Cindy Snyder really helped to kind of put this together as well. But so there's just a lot of information that we want to be able to give people help with, and that's really going to come from the community. So, you know, anything that might have worked with y'all, with your children or your loved one, we will ask for input on that. But no, other than that, the task force does a lot, and we get a lot of great information from them. I know that Donna's has already put together a bunch that we can work and make. So hopefully just makes everyone's difficult life at times a little bit easier. So that's kind of our plan and our goal. So good.
Okay, thank you. The two more things I want to say before we get into this binder and future planning team thing. One is we wanted to make sure and remind everybody that with the ASF does have a licensed family counselor that's available, and it is for all immediate family members of an individual with AS. It is free. And so we want to keep reminding people that resource is out there and provided by the ASF. So feel free to reach out to her. You can find her contact information on the ASF page. So we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. The other is, before I get on this future planning, is again reminding about the sibling resources. We want to keep getting the word out there that there is going to be a sibling meeting every other month. They're going to meet, I think, in January, March, in May and July. That's the plan right now, next year. And it's only for siblings. So we don't, on that site, we don't allow us parents or other caregivers on that, because they need their own space to discuss topics with some confidentiality and freedom to speak. So we want to make sure everybody is aware to share that with any adult siblings that they have, so that they're aware that that is there. And Catherine already showed us where you can find that. If you go to the SIB resources, then the link to register for those meetings are on there. I know one of my sons attended the first meeting, and I think there were 25 or so, Catherine, right? Adult siblings, or maybe Leslie or Amber or Elizabeth can tell us how many.
But we have like 25 on, and then close to 50 sign up and asked for the link, and a lot of really good information. So we know that it was very well received. Some of y'all's children were in there, very well received, and they want help and guidance as well, and definitely giving us some great information. So I don't know if Amber or Elizabeth want to jump in and say anything about that too, but it was good.
Yeah, any Elizabeth, Amber, Leslie, anybody want to just share briefly about how that meeting went for the caregivers on here? Michelle was there too, I think, weren't you, Michelle?
I thought it was. Oh,
I was there.
I thought it was a really great meeting, because everybody was, you kind of realized that you weren't alone. Everybody was in the same boat, trying to plan for the same thing. Even though we all had different situations, it was just a really great support, and a lot of true emotions came out for a lot of people, which was always also nice to see. And again, just that feeling of having everybody around you and just knowing that you weren't alone. I think that was what really was the most important about the first meeting.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And I think just a reminder to parents that, or guardians, that siblings want to be involved, and they want to have those conversations, and those look different in every family, but just starting the conversation at whatever place is right for your family is a good point.
Michelle or Leslie, y'all want to share anything?
Oh, sure. So I think as a sibling, it was so wonderful just having people who know exactly what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with, and knowing that when times get really tough, I'm going to have people to lean on, and just have really extended family who can just really be there, and just, I can speak honestly with. And also just knowing that going forward, we're establishing something where it's all of our siblings across the country united together is just so wonderful to me.
Okay, thank y'all for sharing that. The other thing it made me think of when y'all were talking was, I wanted to encourage all the, particularly the parents, but any caregivers in this group right now to watch the sibling panel from the conference we just had, the Angelman Syndrome Conference. There was a sibling panel on that session, on that conference, that's posted on the ASF page from the conference sessions, and it is quite enlightening, I've got to say. Some of you may have watched it live like I did. It was really good. I just can't say how good it was, really. And I learned a lot. Some things maybe I didn't want to learn, but sometimes the truth really slaps you in the face sometimes. And I just appreciate the siblings so much for being willing to be a part of our task force, and for their willingness to go on a panel and honestly share their thoughts and feelings and experiences. So I really encourage you to go to listen to that. I think anybody who's listened would say it's definitely worth 50 minutes or so of your time to listen to that. Okay. Is there any?
We could just jump in real quick on that. I think one of the things that we have discussed with adult siblings is that they don't want you as parents to be afraid to have some of these difficult conversations. And while it is hard to think about the future and it is a serious undertaking and something that I think even as a parent of an 8-year-old, we don't want to think about, consider this your invitation to have those conversations, because I think that all the siblings would agree that they really want to be like Amber and Elizabeth and Michelle said, they want to be involved and they want to know that it's okay to discuss the future and future wants and wishes with you. So that's kind of one of my biggest takeaways from that.
Yeah, they're actually, you probably would benefit from taking notes when watching that sibling panel, because it really was enlightening. And again, I think y'all also, if you get the opportunity to watch it, will appreciate the honesty from that group of adult siblings. So that segues really well into the other topic we wanted to cover tonight, and that was related to future planning. This task force has done some work towards future planning, and it's really a huge endeavor, but it's something that we really want to spend at least a portion of some of these meetings that we're talking about of Angel Guardians on future planning. So just in these things I'm getting ready to share also were shared in the sibling group last month. So as Catherine spoke to, we really need to make sure that the adult siblings or whomever is going to be the caregivers or potential caregivers for our adults when and if the parents aren't going to be around anymore, we all need to be on the same page. So some of the things that's been discussed in the sibling group, and we want to also discuss in our group, and for some we think we will come together on, is related to future planning. And when you talk about who's involved in the future planning team, we're talking about parents, we're talking about siblings, we're talking about other family members, legal and financial professionals, medical professionals, anyone who's going to be involved in the future of our adults with Angelman syndrome. So the purpose would be with your future planning team is to meet and to discuss and to plan and to document the future care of our adults with Angelman syndrome, because as hard a fact as it is to swallow, none of us are going to be around forever. So it's beneficial to both the current caregiver and to the potential caregiver and to the adult with AS to go ahead and start future planning honestly as soon as you know your loved one has Angelman syndrome, as Catherine was alluding to, having an 8-year-old. So that's the purpose. It's really important to document the wants and wishes of the parents, because as we're told over and over and over again, that just because something's stated in the will does not mean that that's what's going to happen. It still has to go through the legal process, and y'all are probably a lot smarter than me on this. We just recently did a guardianship document on my daughter, and I was naive enough to think that if we named who the successor guardians were going to be, it was a done deal. And it was shared right quickly with me that that was not the case. If the court decides who the guardian is going to be, it really doesn't matter who, my husband and I. Right. Now, hopefully, in all cases, the court would go by the wishes of the parents. And but if you don't state your wishes in a way that can be carried out, then it's a problem. So it still has to go through the legal process. So when my husband and I are no longer here, or I'm no longer able to care for our daughter, then our sons as successor co-guardians will still have to go to court and be named guardians, despite the fact they're in the current document. So if we need to really make sure we have those wants and wishes documented. Another big thing, and a big thing concern for adult siblings, is the guardianship and conservatorship process. We want to spend a little time on that in future sessions. We also, in that FAQ document, or putting some links towards that. That is state specific. So it's really important that everybody knows what their state says for guardianship and conservatorship. Also financial decisions and assets, which would be special needs trust. And I know y'all know this, but there's more than one type of special needs trust. And it's really important that those are written appropriately in order for our children not to be knocked off of federal programs, et cetera. Also, ABLE accounts. So we want to spend a little time on that, but we do have links to ABLE account information. Really, ABLE is a federal program, but how each state is implementing it isn't always exactly the same. The next thing, which I'm going to hit on twice probably, is the important documents that everyone needs to have access to. And this is what's pointing to that important information binder that Catherine mentioned, because it's really important that everyone who is a potential caregiver of your child with, or your adult with Angelman syndrome, knows how to access things like the individual's birth certificate and their social security card and their guardianship paperwork and the special needs trust and the list of the current doctors and medications. So what we're working on right now, and Catherine's working on really diligently right now, is important information binder, if you will, that will either that tells you what we need to have available in case something happened to us. And because we don't all need to try to come up with it individually, there's 26 people on this session right now. And it really is silly and a waste of time to people who don't have much time to try to come up with themselves, what is everything I need? And I'll just use an example. One of my sons was in the sibling meeting, and they talked about, you need to ask your parents, do they have all the information you need in one place? And do you know where it is? And my son called me in a mess a couple of weeks ago because he had just gotten the update from Catherine, or the recap of their meeting, and where it said, do you have a safe box with all of this information in it? And my son called me and he said, my daughter's 28. This son is, I guess, 34. And he said, do you have a security box that has all of the information, that I would need to know for Paige? And he said, because it just occurred to me, if you and Daddy drop dead this afternoon, I'm in a mess. And I had to be honest with him and tell him that everything you need is somewhere in my office. So if I drop dead, even your daddy would have to go through every folder in my office, but it's all there. So, that's not really fair. That's something that if I had some direction with a binder, then I can go ahead and start working on it and work on it as I have time, and there's no reason that is when I just got a legal guardianship document, right? If I had an organized system, I could just stick it in the folder in the security box, and then none of us would have to worry about that. Because I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I go to bed at night and can't sleep for worrying of what if something happened to me, right? Because,
Do you want me to go ahead and share? Because it's extensive. And I will say that I think regardless if you have another child that is going to be the next guardian or conservator, you have to still plan whether you have someone's got to, right? And so I have been working on this, and I will tell you, it's almost the same thing that keeps me up at night. Sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be like, oh my gosh, we got to go add this, because we're doing one for newly diagnosed as well. So I will quickly share this screen, if you don't mind, Robin. And I know we want to get
right. Go for it, Catherine.
We want to have time for people to talk and ask questions and whatnot at the end as well. But so just so y'all get in, this will be branded. This will be very much more individualized. So it'll be easier. But I mean, we are talking about a good chunk of information as we go down. And then all of this, and there's still quite a few other things that I haven't filled in as far as individual information, but it's one of the things that Robin and I were talking about today is things like birth certificates, diagnosis, genetic paperwork, social security cards, stuff that even as a mom of an 8-year-old, I have a file, but goodness, could someone find, I have like 8 binders that are all over in this section of crap right here. So that need to go through. So that will be available for y'all. We've even talked about doing webinars to help walk you through the process of exactly how everything should be out. Everyone has their own system for sure. And we're not saying that y'all don't, but consider this your invitation to start this process or to talk to someone who is who's possibly going to be the next caregiver to your child. Consider this your invitation to do that.
Thank you, Catherine. So a couple of things before we see if anybody has any questions related to that Catherine said. We are hoping to do some webinars on it. We're also hoping to have some accountability groups, because we really think it might be helpful if the ASF sponsored like 4 groups a year, that somebody could sign up to be in an accountability group, so that, you know, like me and some, you know, 4 or 5 of us could get together and hold each other accountable to make sure we do it, because we know how life takes over, and you say, I have good intentions to do that, but so it might be helpful to have an accountability group. The other thing I wanted to bring up that we want to discuss in both groups is these difficult conversations. Catherine's already alluded to that we really want to have some work on discussing best practices related to tough conversations. And we will have a future session on this, as will the sibling group, because we need to have a conversation with whoever's going to be the caregiver or the potential caregiver. Need to have a conversation about difficult things to talk about, but also update it every year so that everybody's on the same page. So like, what is included and expected in guardianship and conservatorship? What's the future living situation going to be? A lot of the siblings have expressed difficulty discussing that with the parent or the current caregiver, and, you know, where you would have, you know, where all the information is located. So those difficult conversations is when we hope we're going to be able to get our family counselor in on it, and really direct all of us and the siblings and any future caregiver on how you have those hard conversations. So with that, what we'd like to know is what topics would you like to see covered? How can we best help? What do you think about the things we've talked about? You can jump in or put it wherever you want to put it, and we'd love to hear your opinions on these things.
I would like to say, just as a member of the task force, I kind of have a unique situation because I am single. I adopted my son with Angelman syndrome 26 years ago. I've never been married, don't have any siblings. So I'm available. I'm here to support, for you guys to think outside of the box. For those, you know, there's a lot with siblings and how they're involved, but if they're out there by yourself, some of these single moms, I'm there to help you, and maybe they can help me too.
Thank you, Cindy. Such an important topic.
And Cindy, you've got a plan that is, like you said, out of the box for your future, right? Have you bought that house and everything?
Yeah, we just through a fundraiser was able to help get a house. And our plan is, this will be PJ's Forever House, and we're hiring in-care providers that will eventually take over and live in the house when I'm gone. And he will stay at his house, and it's in the trust and everything set up.
Anyone else? It's so nice to see some of your children behind you, guys.
What, Catherine?
I said, so nice to see some of the adult children behind. Sure, much better behaved than my 8-year-old.
Well, PJ's over here keeps saying, why can't I be in the picture? And I won't let him, so.
Cindy, let him in.
Want to see PJ? Come here.
Yes.
Another idea we've had, which I'd love to hear some input on, is whether or not we're thinking about maybe we could do some sessions that are just networking, talking, that we could actually break people into subgroups in on Zoom if they were interested. Because as we said, we've seen the importance of, to our task force, we meet every month and we spend the first 15 minutes or so talking about our current struggles and supporting each other on our struggles that we're going through. So anybody else have anything they want to say? Y'all are really quiet.
If no one else is getting on, I will say, I put my email address in there and you will get an email back from me. So if there's anything, maybe you're not comfortable right now saying that you want to have a specific topic on, feel free to shoot me an email. Obviously this is no judgment zone, but there's a lot. I can't imagine everything that everyone goes through on different situations, but feel free to shoot me an email and we'll make sure to get something covered for you as well.
We also sent out, which many of you may have participated in, we sent out a survey for suggestions for topics. So we'll also be working on that. But really, this is for y'all. So we need to, we want input on what's most beneficial to y'all. What would be worth spending your time on for an hour every other month?
Well, if y'all had siblings, if you had children that were in the meeting, they had ideas. So we'll be hitting on their stuff too.
Okay.
So I have a specific thing I would like to ask, bring up, whatever. So my parents are currently separated and my Angelman sibling only lives with my mom. If possible, I would like guidance on how, because once they are divorced, I would like to guidance, whatever, on how to deal with that as a sibling and primary caregiver of my brother. Because I don't know like how their divorce stuff would impact his care and stuff like that. So kind of a what should I know would be really helpful.
I think we can definitely open that up to if there are any divorced parents in the community or siblings as well who have gone through that. That would be a great topic of how do you plan going forward. So I don't know if anyone is on now that could share information, but that's a good thing to have. I see Daryl Ferguson is raising their hand.
Hi, we are interested in knowing how is the best way to attract caregivers for our adults. And I know we have actually just started to receive any hours for anybody to come into our home. However, of course, with COVID, there's almost no opportunity for hiring anybody because there are a lot of people that are still not going for positions. And also the cost of what our state is willing to pay people is so little that they can go out and get a job at McDonald's for what they would take to care for our son, who is definitely a much bigger job. So that would be something I would like to find a way to address, possibly for finding adult caregivers for our adult children. And I know also that under 18 families are also having the same issue, but people seem to like the really small, cute, cuddly, smiley ones a lot better than they do the 21-year-old that they have to change diapers for. So
those are two really good suggestions.
It would be good if we could get even input from region by region, because I know, again, every state is different, but are y'all up north? We we could try and group it region by region and see if we can get some input from some specialists there.
Yeah, we're in Michigan now, so we're in Midwest.
Okay.
So, in Oregon, it's county by county, not, so if you live in one county, you may be able to find a caregiver, but if you live in another, there may be nobody. And I know we've been looking for a year and a half now and have had 2 interviews. Neither one went any farther than the interview. One was barely literate and the other one was unvaccinated. So it was like, nope. So just to let you know that it's sometimes very specific to the area you're in, whether you can find them or not. But I'm absolutely with you. Guidance on how to do that would be just terrific. Yeah, that would be great.
I think sometimes you could even tap into like a local college and get some college kids. And if you hook into summer, because I've heard people doing that sometimes, getting some college kids. And we have a local camp here that some of the older kids and even the high school kids we've been able to tap into. But it's been kind of dry the last year and a half, I would have to say, for sure with that. And then the other thing we're doing that I'm just going to start doing is I'm going to switch to, and I don't know if this is in every state. Does every state have the Med Waiver and CDC Plus, those choices, or is that, I live in Florida. So CDC Plus, I can take over the, like my husband or I could be the boss of the whole, all the monies that come in from Med Waiver. And then with CDC Plus, you could hire family members and you could actually pay them. And then you could also set the pay that you pay the other people that come in, and it could be a little bit higher than what they're paying through an agency and stuff. But again, I don't know if that's just for this state that we're able to do that. So that's my next project. And my son's 32. And he won't say hi, but show you him.
I know that varies state by state, but I also know one thing that they are not advertising is that they are allowing family members to do that right now because of COVID. And that's not something that a lot of states, like we don't, my son wouldn't get that, again, he's 8, but he wouldn't get that normally, but because of COVID, he would qualify for a family member to be his caregiver or paid caregiver because they're so short-staffed right now. But again, it's not something that's advertised, but the college idea is good. Also hospitals, sometimes techs are always looking. And again, it's going to just vary on where you are, but we will, we'll start reaching out to the community for sure and see what we can kind of help come up with. And I know
even help with like writing some type of a ad or, to attract people, that even as far as, how detailed do you get? Is it a point to where it gets too detailed that people will immediately turn away and go, I don't want anything to do with that. So not just the attracting them in, but how do you write it up so that it's encouraging that somebody will want to be there? Because our case manager basically said, well, the people who are doing this aren't in it to get rich, which is true, but most of them are in it to make money. And I can't feel like I can expect somebody to come and care for my child just because they like him. There's more to it than that. So, I mean, even like I said, just even helping getting, like maybe there would be a standard type of advertisement that you could put somewhere like at a college to say, this is what I'm looking for to help us figure out what's best to be able to get our child looked after.
I will look. There's a family on Facebook that has did kind of like a little write-up and a video. And I can check with her and see if we can share her advertisement.
Dawn, you got something to say about it?
I think Elizabeth had her hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. My question kind of, well, it's not a question, piggybacks off of that topic. Maybe in the document that we have of what's worked for everybody on different things that they've done, what happens if you finally find somebody to help and your loved one doesn't accept their help? Like, how do you make that transition? What has worked for families? Because I know in our case, my brother doesn't want anybody except my mom, my dad, me, he kind of makes the decision as to who's going to help him and when they're going to help him. So like, how do you, if you finally are lucky enough to find somebody, how do you transition into getting them to be part of the family?
Yeah, that's a great topic, because I think that's true with most individuals. So we'll definitely add that in. And I think a lot of the great thing about this is a lot of this is going to be going out to, we'll put it out to a lot of the community and we'll get a lot of input on it. But Don, go ahead if you want to. And then Fernanda. Where'd Don go? Oh, there she is.
We can't hear you, Dawn.
Yeah, I have an exchange daughter from Thailand who reached out to me just recently. And evidently Canada has a program where they're advertising globally for caregivers. And I'm really interested in, especially because of the national shortage that we have around caregivers. And so what it looks to be is, if she gets some training, goes to Canada and spends 5 years as a caregiver, then she can get duo citizenship. And so I thought, that's a really interesting idea, because we have many programs. Our farm programs bring in workers from other countries to learn our systems. And so why not this area too? So it's something that I'm going to look more into. I don't know, it may or may not be a solution, but I think we are in a time where we're going to all have to be creative. COVID did not help the caregiver shortage that we have in this country. It helped people realize how much of a problem it is, but I think that we have to get creative. We have to get very creative.
I think Vicki and Walt Fernandez, if anyone doesn't have anything to jump in on that. Do you have something?
Hello, first, thank you for inviting us to this forum. And we'll embarrass Elizabeth. We are Elizabeth's, I'm Elizabeth's father, and her mother just sitting here just off screen because she said, I didn't put my makeup on. So she's hitting me now. But in our case, and something that people can look for is within their own programs. We actually had an aide for Joe that would come to the house that was his bus driver, of all people. So he developed an attachment to this bus driver, and she has come and it made, it allowed for my wife and myself to go out for a quick dinner or for something else. And she's a little bit older, but still it worked for us. Our son is 40 years old. So we're in the process now of, we have ARC in our area. And they have just in the last few years really delved into group homes. Quite a few, I think we have like 20 something of them now or something like that. I sit on the board, you'd think I would know. But there's another avenue to put out and ask if any of those people that work in the group homes, a lot of them, because of what they make in the group homes is not substantial, unfortunately, they're all looking for alternate jobs or second jobs. So there might be a source with existing programs in your area, existing group homes, and also in your schools with a lot of your aides that are not teachers, but are aides. They're also looking for work on the outside in our population. So that might be a source it seems to be a half decent source here in New Jersey. So just open for other people to look at. Just an idea. Thank you again. Elizabeth,
Well,
put down your hand.
Thank you. I want to be sensitive to the time because we're 6 minutes over now of our hour. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share right now? Again, please feel free to email Catherine, or my email address is on the Angelman syndrome page, also under the adult resources. So please give us any input you have on topics or any of these instruments or tools we're working on, forms, and any way we can try to make things a little easier or more streamlined for y'all. Catherine, you have anything else, or anybody else on the task force?
We're just really glad y'all took the time to come on, and excited to kind of see how y'all can share with us and help us to learn and grow as a foundation that can really help this group. So we are excited to get to work. I'm excited to share some of the stuff that we're working on with you all. We are always open to suggestions. Like Amanda said, we're always open for phone calls, whatever anyone needs. That's why we're here.
The next meeting we have planned will be in February of, I can't believe this, 2022. We're gonna decided not to have one in the next 2 months because of the holiday season coming up. But as Catherine said, we're available for any and all input and questions on how we could help. So it will be on the register, will again be on the ASF page for February. And I know the ASF will also be putting it all over social media as well to remind people about it.
Like we said, this is being recorded, so you can go back and listen if there's anything that you feel you missed, and I will send out a detailed thing afterwards. So give me a few days to get that out to y'all. But yeah, and I think we're keeping it the second Tuesdays of the month. We might shift a little bit, but we appreciate flexibility.
Okay. Well, again, thank y'all, and I hope you have a wonderful night.
Anything before we get up? All right. Thank you, guys.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have to figure out how to get off of this.